Welcome to the Intuitive Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Rafferty, medical doctor, PhD, Reiki and shamanic intuitive healer. I'm here to bring you on a journey of holistic healing that explores the science of the physical body combined with mental and emotional well-being, energetic and spiritual health. And I am so beyond excited today to have Anne-Marie Toole here with us. Welcome, Anne-Marie.
Thank you for having me, Tony. So excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy that you came to have a little chat with me today. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background. So Anne-Marie Toole and I have been on an absolutely magical shamanic journey for the last couple of years together, where we went through the process of healing our inner wounds and then journeyed through the practitioner modules of the shamanic training. And we've held each other in the deepest and darkest of spaces and also held each other in the most beautiful light spaces as well. So it's been such a journey. And Anne-Marie's done healings on me and it's been incredibly powerful. We've spoken into the shame that I carry as a gay man. And also we've journeyed a bit on what kind of disgust within the body looks like, particularly at our last gathering. And coming into Pride weekend, I thought, what better person to explore this with than the founder of Insight Matters in Dublin. So Anne-Marie, I'd love to just hear a little bit about the work that you do at Insight Matters before we go perhaps on a bit of a personal journey with the two of us with regard to our journeys with ourselves and coming out and why Pride is still so important today. So yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And pride is probably the essence and energy of pride is at the core and essence of Insight Matters, which is a psychotherapy, counselling and wellness holistic centre that Dil Vikramasinghe, my wife, and I founded close to 14 years ago. So we founded the centre with the intention that individuals from within our community and outside, but especially within the community, need not scroll through 25 different wellness and psychotherapy practice pages in order to feel and see themselves connected with. In other words, we're a very gay, openly gay and queer and trans affirmative centre within the space in Dublin on Capel Street, which holds a great energy in terms of the independence and that really important essence of being oneself and presenting oneself to the world in how one wants to be. That's the essence of the centre. We have 100 practitioners who work alongside us and work with us and who, like us, want to journey into that space of true understanding of diversity and inclusion, because true understanding lies within us. We know that within us there's a rich tapestry that incorporates, I won't say millions, billions and billions of strands of who we are. We want the space to be able to expand, our space to be able to expand, to hold and include and integrate all of those parts of not just the clients who work with us, but equally the therapists and the practitioners, because there always needs to be two parties growing in that space. So in terms of our queer community and our queer clients, this is the energetic intention of how we work here.
Oh, I love this. I just can hear the passion in your voice when you speak about this, and it just radiates from your heart. I just have to say, it is so amazing for the community that this is something that's on offer, first of all. I work with a lot of people from the LGBTQ plus community, and, you know, it's a deep journey of self-discovery that people are going on these days, because there's such a sense of unfulfillment. There's such a sense of not being seen. And, you know, I know when I began looking for therapists back at the very beginning of my journey many years ago, I myself had to scroll through an infinite number of profiles online because I was so deep in my own shame that I was so fearful if I went somewhere that I'd be judged for being gay. And you know, it took me so long to find someone going out and speaking with people, being like, oh God, what if I turn up here? Am I going to be able to be fully transparent with actually the authentic nature of my soul? You
That's
know?
exactly it. That's exactly it, Tony. And and that's actually been with me in the last number of weeks. The difficulty that can be there for an individual when they're in that internal space of, will I know they're in that space of, I know I should, but should doesn't necessarily mean want to. And they're nearly caught in that internal density of, I just, it's so hard to actually reach out. That I think is a journey in and of itself. It can take a long time. There's many
Mm.
different things that bind us on the inside, and they don't, those internal binds, developed and weaved through the journey of life. They don't tend to, they're not going to break easily. They're there for a reason. They've developed for a reason. Absolutely. When an individual does that and they say, actually, do you know what? I'm just going to, as you said, I'm just going to go into that space and I'm going to trust and risk my soul and my internal world into the hands or into the space with another human being. I absolutely want that space to be as expansive as it can be in that moment, to include as much of that person. And that's all about us. That's all about
Mm.
us therapists, practitioners, individuals, all learning, how do we do that? How do we hold that really, really deep, expansive, soulful space for another human being at the level they want, at the attunement that they need and that they deserve? And I think that's a huge bit, Tony, when we grow up in what is still hierarchically and overarchingly a heteronormative developmental experience. When we develop as queer individuals or individuals who we don't integrate into what already is in existence. We grow, and then we kind of, even in those early moments of life, can feel, no, this doesn't fit me. I'm feeling this, and our energy systems, our nervous system, at a very, very young, wise stage, will feel this very, very early. This out there doesn't fit my shape in here. Now, usually, and
Mm.
just tapping into what you brought in just right there at the beginning, before any messages or even any words are actually translated or communicated to a child about who they are and how they identify and what they cannot be in this world and who they definitively shouldn't be. Even before any of that begins, that experience of the me in here, my internal doesn't fit out there, that brings shame to the human soul. And
Mm.
even that,
Yeah.
because the human soul comes in with real wisdom. It knows on the deepest level, it's meant to find the space that fits. But when it doesn't,
Mm.
it contracts. It has no choice. It'll withdraw. It'll contract and go, what's going on here? Why am I not fitting out there? Safety will always come first for the human nervous system. It has to. So the human nervous system, the baby, the child, the teenager, the adolescent, then will withdraw, and we will withdraw for safety. And maybe at a certain point we'll go, I'm done withdrawing, and man, it'll all come out. And it'll rage and it'll attack because it is so angry that it has not been met. And it's right. It is right to protest its absolute birthright in this world, to be met as it is, to be met, for the space outside to say, I want you. That's, for me, that's not that, is it easy? No. Of course it's not easy for the souls out there doing the receiving of this individual. But is it actually that complex an idea to get our heads around? For me, it's not. The human soul wants to be
Yeah.
met for who it is. And even perhaps, as we might do, or as we intend to do this coming Saturday, even to be celebrated. That's what the human soul is actually out
Yes.
there going, this is we throw this tolerance word out the window. That's not, I didn't come into this world to be tolerated. I have not met a human soul out there who actually said, oh, that's okay. I'll just be up to here. I'm okay. Not at all. We deserve to be celebrated in our fullness. Every human soul deserves that. And it's different. It's different for the queer population because of what we grow into, what we are born into.
Oh, you have just spoken to the depths of my soul. Like, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because that's so beautiful. And something I always emphasize to the clients who come through the door of, you know, a lot of this stuff happened pre-verbal. You know, this is stuff that was being conditioned into our psyche. The deep understanding of who we are existed before we had words. And then as we did develop words, we were looking around us. We were hearing stories, you know, and during my kind of version of earlier years, there was no gay role models. There was nobody queer for me to actually look up to or to identify with. And I always grew up feeling very different. I knew I was different, you know? And there was always a questioning element to that. And I'll never forget, I had gone on a date with this guy and I carried so much shame. Like, I wanted to just live in the shadow so nobody could see me. That's how I was in my teenage years. I was like, please, nobody look at me. Because I was carrying so much shame about something internally I couldn't really even quite put my finger on, you know? And I went on a date with this guy. We'd been chatting for months. It was one of my first ever dates. And I went on a journey with him and I was like, oh, I'm not sure whether I like boys or like girls. I'm just very confused about all of these things because I really truly valued the depth of connection with women because I could be emotionally vulnerable with them and I couldn't with men, but I was attracted to men. And I was like, I don't understand. I was so confused and conflicted within my own body. And he sent me a message back and was like, you don't like women, you like men. You need to just come to terms with the fact that you're gay. And I remember being so angry at him for telling me what I was or wasn't. But he actually did me a service in a lot of ways because I remember sitting on the bus deeply conflicted, deeply angry that day. And I thought it was the first day I allowed myself to actually think, maybe I am gay. It was the allowing, because nobody around me had ever introduced the theme or the topic of actually allowing your mind to go there. Because within society, within like my parents' generation, they knew one gay man, you know, and he lived such a different life. And the generations who came before, obviously, it's quite interesting, the stereotype of what it was like to be gay, the party gay, you know? And kind of, I was growing up in the footprint of that, you know. And even, I will never forget actually with, there was a TV show. Do you remember The Real World on MTV?
It rings a bell, a distant bell.
Like, I'd say I was about 8 or 9 watching this show, and one of the guys in it was gay. And I remember being intrigued with this man. I was intrigued by him, and he was openly gay on TV. And I remember being like, why am I so drawn to this man's story? Like, why is he resonating with what he speaks? And later on in the show, he contracted HIV and then he went on to get AIDS and he died. And they did a whole episode with him in hospital on that journey. And I was so deeply wounded by this man's death on TV at such a young age. And I think even then there was a narrative that, well, if you're gay, you're going to get HIV and you're going to die. And I think even working through the stigma and the fear that was destined for all of us, like, that was huge. I carried so much fear in my body about that, you know? like I even feel sad for that younger version of myself as I speak into that and go back and relive those memories of my earlier years and kind of the shame that that kind of the weight of the gay community and the ancestral history of the queer community carried and was ingrained innate within me without me even knowing.
I think that's huge. And I think you're speaking into what still exists on a great many heavy levels still to this day. I find it very,
Mm,
we're still speaking to that pain and that trauma and that turmoil that's existing in our own lifetime up to this point, but most certainly what has been carried before down our own ancestral line in terms of any of our ancestors many years ago who would have experienced something similar. How could they hold it? How was it held? How were they able to experience this part of themselves? And if not, what did they do with it? Did they, the deep brutality that we can sadly inflict on ourselves when this part of us cannot actually exist and be? And I think
mm,
I think there's a few bits to this. I find it very interesting. We're very familiar now with the really important research that's been done with our community of the extremely high levels of mental health distress, suicidal ideation, suicidal risk in our community. We're very, very familiar with that. And it speaks to the deep, deep trauma that we experience and carry. And it won't dissipate unless it experiences healing and connection and understanding and attuned nuance holding by a space, potentially a practitioner, a healer, perhaps a trusted individual who can really, really hold that part of ourselves. Sadly, that trauma will remain until that point. It won't dissipate until then because it needs to stay in order to protect. So we know that bit. The bit that I'm really tapping into now, as I live in the Ireland of today, of our world, where this return to hate of our community has, and I'm getting shivers as I speak of it. This
mm,
return is now, we are now, it has directioned back to us. Well, what's happening? What's happening there? The world is experiencing, without unsurprisingly, trauma and pain. And who do we go to attack in the early instances of that? And our community has yet again been targeted on a national, international, global scale again. And I ask myself, what is happening here? And then I think about Saturday again, because I think about this month is a very important month for me. I look at Pride Month as oxygenation, not just for me, for my family. And by that, I mean my extended family now. My wife and I made the decision to extend and expand our family in the last 18 months to include other partners and other souls who effectively want to journey with us and our children in this lifetime. So we've expanded now. We're now essentially a unit, an extended unit of 8. So what's so important about this time for me? It's about the energy and the oxygen of what intentioned, purposeful, powerful visibility of our community in this month. My cellular system needs that as a 43-year-old woman who came out at the age of 29 and did not know on a conscious level about this part of herself until that age. That's a whole other story in and of itself. I didn't know. When I got time to reflect, I was able to go, oh my word, now I can understand various bits of me. Why is this so important? Because we need to feel and exist and be amongst our peers and amongst who we are. Because as we said at the start, we don't live that 24/7. And effectively that means we don't get the opportunity. We're not afforded that right to live and feel and breathe queer energy every single day. There's a loss in that. There's a trauma in that in and of itself. There's a split in that. It's not about, hey, you get it for June. Why not every month? So I don't get to live and feel and see myself and connect with myself. For June is extremely important to me, from the cellular, nervous, energy systems of my children. How can they feel and live into their fullest self if they can't feel and live and experience their existence as full human beings in the energy spaces of their environments? We don't the queer community question that, but the rest of the world doesn't question that because they don't need to. So I speak into this, and the one thing I can conclude about Saturday, 100,000 plus people will march with us on Saturday. Why has Pride become the most popular and most, what has happened there with the Irish public in terms of this energy shift to become the biggest parade? I can only conclude in my years of work, my years of connecting with the community, my years in terms of connecting with myself, this part of who we are at Tony is phenomenally powerful. This part is not. I connect with, in therapy terms, IFS, internal family systems, the various parts of the human psyche. This is not some sub part that hides in the corner of the dining room of the psyche. For me, our sexuality, our sexual identity, who we connect with in this way, and it's broad and it's vast, and it takes many layers for many people and many terms, and it includes all in the internal of the psyche. This for me is a pillar part of the human psyche. And what tells me that is, what will we do to ourselves and to the world to ensure its continued existence? We will go to war for it. We have gone to the streets for it. We have gone to a revolution for it. Sadly, if this part of us doesn't get to be, we'll go to internal war in the absolute turmoil of not being able to live and breathe this pillar part of who we are. And when and if all we can do without a supportive environment to meet us, if all we can do is just leave it in some other part of the psyche and just kind of like, oh, it's there, but I don't want to touch it, the level of fulfillment of our life is deeply, deeply affected. And our level of strength is as a result too.
Oh my God, that's so powerful. And, in a previous podcast episode, I spoke into this, like the collective unconscious, this kind of the concepts presented by Jung. And, what's left in the unconscious will continue to play out in its shadow form. And it's quite interesting. Like, I loved what you were saying, because you've touched on two things that spoke really powerfully to, well, everything you spoke is so powerful. The power in your voice is just magic, first of all. Thank you. And your words are just, they're landing just within my heart. And I feel really emotional, like recording this episode, just hearing the passion in your voice, and everything we're speaking about just touches me so deeply. But what we were speaking into there with regard to safety, and you were saying earlier, safety is what's needed for the nervous system to regulate. And this kind of increased hatred that we're beginning to see, even on social media, and even just last week in Phoenix Park, these 3 gay men being stalked with knives. And the amount of violence against people from the queer community, it's actually quite shocking that this has been an upsurge in this. And, every single day for the last couple of weeks, I'm seeing some homophobic comments on Instagram. And I'm just like, what's happening to the world? I thought we were moving more towards acceptance rather than into this hate space. And it's just touched me very deeply, but it's made me even more passionate, because I'm like, actually, as people lean more into this hate element, it makes the need for safety even greater. And like you were saying that, bringing all of these kind of unconscious shadow elements into the light so we can hold them in a space of safety. And on my journey, when I was much younger, I will never forget going to gay bars for the first time, because it is the only place that I actually felt safe. I felt seen. And actually, I could completely let all of my guard down and just be me. I didn't have to put on the facade that the straight world needed me to have, or I perceived I needed to hold for the straight world to accept me. And being within queer spaces, I was like, oh my God, there is a lovely sense of safety here. And when I march in the parade, and I always find a way to break through the barriers and walk with whoever has the loudest and most fabulous music every year. And, you know, it is just amazing to actually feel safe within the city and around the population of people who've come to be there. You feel safe on the streets. And that is not something that I necessarily feel in the truest sense on a day-to-day basis. I think as we were talking about this, I'm having little flickers and flashes of things. Like I have the most cool Revolut rainbow pride card I got a couple of years ago. But I noticed I went to pay for something in the coffee shop today. And even today, after all the work that I've done on myself, my internal word with shame, there was a queue of people behind me and I pulled out my rainbow card and I went to tap it. And there was just a flicker of a thought that I was like, what if someone sees your outward expression of gayness in your card? And that is that. And I recognize I've worked so hard to get to where I'm at now, but obviously still that little flicker within the community of being out in public with my loud and proud gay card. And I'm quite happy to be an outward, like I will tell the world and its mother about my gayness. And I love being a gay man. But it is interesting that that little flicker of shame still bubbles to the surface on occasion about what's it like to actually be gay, not within the walls of my practice, not within the community of a gay bar or within places that are safe like Insight Matters. What does it look like to be safe on the street? What does it look like to hold your partner's hand and not feel like you're going to get your head kicked in? And I still, if I'm being honest, I don't know what the latter looks like within society.
I think you're speaking to something. I think what you're speaking to there in terms of the experience of the parade very much is resonating with me to help me connect with this feeling that emerges, it's like a wave. It comes closer and closer and bigger as the day evolves. This last Saturday of June, I attended my first Pride. I think I was I 29? Yes. And it was just like the internal, for me, it was an internal withdrawal. That was my safety. Go small for safety. And then the day unfolds. And then if I think about my experience, even of a number of years ago, marching, it's this bit of this like internal wave of just like, it's like an internal, oh my God, exuberance. And it's my system kind of going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's what you've just described there. I'm safe. I'm seen. I'm visible. I belong. I'm amongst my peers. It's like I'm nearly like kind of going, oh my God, I think you're right. I don't, in terms of the latter bit, I don't live this every day. And my system was just going, and I live it today. I'm living this today, marching. People are cheering me over there. Last month, did I wonder that the person in their silence looking at me, I had to question, were they judging me? Am I okay here? Am I expecting something? And even what am I feeling in their silence? And today someone is actually celebrating and even championing me. And my system just on one level didn't have a clue what to do with it. And another is just in the incredible wave of it. And it's incredible. And I'm interested also by your when I say, for me, body, nervous system, energy system, they're all different, and they have different parts and functions and all of those. For me, they're all one. But in that instance, in the cafe, I'm really curious by the nuance of your energy system. Wise antenna. Am I okay here? Wise, am I okay here? And the point here is, it doesn't matter that nothing actually, in this instance, nothing was said or nothing. That's actually not the point. The point was the question still needed to be asked. That's the point. And then the further bit is, what impact does that have on you? Are any of us still holding that bit? We think about, we have a certain energy allowance every day to put into our life, our world, our purpose, our joy, our intentions of being. How much of our energy still needs to go into safety? And the truth of it is, quite a lot. A lot of our energy still needs to go into healing, the collective, the ancestral trauma. And a lot of our present day energy, we're looking around going, am I okay here? Am I okay here? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Absolutely. Like, absolutely. Am I okay here? And, you know, this is the thing for me anyway. And I think, if I'm being honest with you, it's what makes me a good energy healer, is because I'm so hyper vigilant and so attentive to the energy in the space, because that's how I've had to be my whole life from a child. You know, you're so hyper aware of energy, because even in the pre-verbal state, like we were saying, actually the way we learned to navigate the room and our parental interactions and all these things was read the energy, because we couldn't speak, you know? And nowadays, I recognize I went through a period of deep healing with regard to the hypervigilance. But on a day like today, when I took out my card, I actually felt very safe going around. But it was just that little flicker of back to the hypervigilant space, back to the space where you're literally, it's like you have eyes in the back of your head, you're scanning the whole room. Whereabouts is the energy shifting? Is there any energy shifting around me in relation to this? And you know, it's so amazing, because I find that wounding, I'm fascinated with how it plays out with me on the day to day. And I've discussed this with clients as well. Because when I walk down the street and I see couples, men and women, holding hands and just loving each other so freely, I find it quite fascinating. I love love. So I'll always look so fondly on that. But I always wonder to myself, I wonder what that would feel like, that there isn't ever, ever, it's not even questioned that you can reach out and take your partner's hand, that you can embrace them, that you can kiss them. There's never a flicker of a thought that you'll be judged in that space for that behavior. And that outward expression of love, you know? And there sometimes I look on, there's like an envy sometimes of, wow, I wonder what that must be like. You know, I wonder what that true loving connection with no fear of judgment or persecution would feel like. And then on the flip side of that, when I see same-sex couples walking down the street, like, I just want to look at them. I want to hug them. I want to run over and embrace them and be like, you go. And then I become a weirdo that's staring at them, smiling like an absolute lunatic. And so, of course, they're not just being looked at by the straight community, they're also being looked at by people within the gay community as well. So it's like, but I just want to shower love onto them. But at the same time, I really am so aware that that's not normalizing it. You know, because I feel so joyful to see people standing in their power and expressing their love.
It's so interesting you say that, because I actually have this exuberant response as well when I see it. It's an act of advocacy every single time we do it. It really is in our world. And it's an act of internal purpose and intention, effectively, to break through confines, internal confines, societal, community, family confines, and conform and conformity. It's an act of breaking through that. It's an act of saying that we have been told we should not do, or that we could be judged, or worse, violence could be perpetrated against us. I will do it anyway. I will be visible. I will be me. I will be present. And then it goes back to the question mark of, what is our life? What is it? Who are we when we cannot do that? Again, we're back into, I always feel with the queer community, and this is why I'm always very drawn by the numbers of the Pride Parade, because it's all about we talk about those big numbers about allyship. It's all the allies are coming out. Now, that's not all good intention, Tony. That's not all, I'd love to support. There's way more at play with the energy. If we were the only ones in this energetic power, circular, we would know it. Individuals who journey on the internal in this area, and they journey to say, I am going to look at this very, very powerful, vibrant part of me. That individual, when they meet another member of our society, another member of their family, of any individual outside of our community, they create change. The other individual cannot be unaffected by this person who has gone on this internal journey. We change when we internally reflect and we connect. And the people who connect with us, they feel it. So we have impact. And I firmly believe we have very, very powerful impact on society in this journey that we don't necessarily always want or ask for, but that through the very nature of our innate we become called upon to do in order to live the fullest life possible in this world. I'm very, very fascinated by that internal growth bit. And this is why I love my work in terms of therapy. I love that internal growth piece. I love the bit about the expansion of those, moving through those societal confines. I absolutely adore that. And where that has gone for me is, what's the effect of us on the rest of the population? Because every human being can experience deep, deep fulfillment and joy by looking at this part of who they are. So it's all part of that. But what we also do in our act of self-journeying, we threaten those who are not ready to journey themselves into their own psyche. It creates a threat, a jar, it creates a fear, it creates an internal conflict. And if other can't hold that part of themselves, that's when we see, okay, I am now going to hurt, hate, attack the person, the individual, the energy system that can actually do that. We move in those spaces all the time in terms of our journey, and then in terms of how we impact. I don't genuinely believe we know the impact we have on others. It's just not. We don't speak to it enough. I think we hold something incredibly powerful and special there in terms of our community, and I don't even think we know it, actually. I don't even think we know about this part of ourselves and what our greater contribution continually is.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I've spoken about this previously on the podcast with regard to the way I tend to describe it to people is, when the sun rises every morning, we get out of bed, we all wake up, we go about our day to day. The flowers open and they turn to face the sun. And then in the evening, when the sun goes down, we go to sleep and all the flowers close up again. And I say to people, when you allow your light to shine like the sun, you allow other people to wake up. You allow all the flowers and all those beautiful blooms to blossom. And those people are not going to wake up until you allow your light to shine. And so the more of us that can shine like the sun, and this, I just feel like on the journey as shamans, obviously we have a rainbow body, the energetic rainbow body. And I'm kind of just feeling like we could say that, like, unless we allow that beautiful rainbow light to shine, who are we going to touch, you know? Because essentially what we are journeying with is, like every soul in this world, really, is the journey to our deepest authentic self. And if we allow ourselves to shine as radiantly as possible, allow the sun to beam out of our heart, allow our rainbow body to be as bright and wild as possible, I have no doubt we'll be able to touch so many others from the queer community, but also just other souls existing here that just need a little bit of inspiration to step more fully into their
Mm,
authentic light.
mm. I think that's beautiful. I think what you said you walk down the street and you just want to share the gay couple or the queer couple with love. And love is what you're speaking to there. Who are we on the deepest internal? What resides there? I think within you, Tony, it is pure love. I know that because I have connected with that part of you that is just so soulfully loving. And it's love at its absolute core. And absolutely, how do we know, how do we even begin the journey of a life of contentment, a life of joy? It is all about the expression, the being of that authentic self. And there's the energy of that, there's the cellular expression. And we know this, the harder side of this is just very briefly to touch back into the importance of talking and speaking to the pain and the shame. We need to talk to give it cellular life. We need to be able to give it life. It needs to exist first. It's in our system, but we have compressed it and compacted it, and we'll hold it in a tight bundle in another dining room end of the psyche. That's what we'll do because we need to live and survive and be. But in order for us to actually live deepen into that authentic self, we need to visit that and say, okay, how can I, the person that we are, with the support of whomever it can be a very, very hard, deep, lonely journey alone. How can I hold that part of myself that experienced so much pain and begin to let some of that go, particle by particle? Very, very quiet in my experience, quiet, gentle work, attuning and being with this part of us in the psyche. Very, very quiet, gentle work. And then we begin to let it out and it clears some space. And then maybe a while later, however long it takes, then this authentic self, it actually slowly begins to even emerge. It just emerges and it's like, there I am the whole time. And there it is. It's arrived. I can only arrive into safety.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love it. You know, it's so interesting because you're speaking about love, which obviously, if we lean more into the shamanic energy or the chakra-based system, the love is in the heart. The heart projects, and I've spoken about the energy potential within the heart as an organ outside of everything else in the body. The cells in the heart, they can generate their own individual energy. These myocytes. So the energetic structure of the heart and the capacity for every cell to generate energy is just so powerful. The heart in and itself as an energetic center is so amazing. And as we learn to heal the wounds of the heart, we can use the energy in the heart to transmute dark into light. It's almost like within the energetic system, we have the 3 lower chakras, we have the 3 upper chakras, and the heart is the bridge. The heart is the bridge. And even if you look into Reiki, Reiki comes in through the crown, it moves down into the heart and then moves down through your arms and out your hands. So the heart is the center. It's the center point. And I tend to say to people, you know, as we go on a journey with love, by healing our relationship to love, we can go on a journey to then transmute heavier energies within the heart into light. We can work with people as healers to really transmute any darkness in their body into light. And we can become a beautiful channel for light if we unblock the energy in the heart. And, what prevents energy from moving through the heart space? It's a lack
Mm.
of love. It's blocks to love. And on this journey with the heart space, I've realized, well, actually, what are my blocks to loving self? What are the blocks to loving self, And one element of that has been shame, and you spoke into kind of that energy of shame and love in what you were just talking about. And even as someone who's gone deep into shame, on our last shamanic retreat, I felt like I was going deep into another layer of shame, and that was disgust for self. And even like the disgust that's placed upon us for how we have sex, you know? And you were speaking into sexuality at the beginning of the show as well. And kind of, I was going deep into what disgust looked like. And the disgust that I carried in my body as a byproduct of my own thoughts for self, and on what society perceives to be disgusting, you know? And as I journeyed deeper and deeper into that, it was deep within my root chakra, which is obviously
Yeah.
concerned with safety, and my heart
Mm.
chakra, which affected my love for self. And that was the deepest essence of our journey at our last shamanic gathering, was going deep into shame and disgust and how it was blocking my love for
Yeah.
self. And that to me felt sticky. That deep disgust within the body, it felt sticky. It was brown. It felt toxic,
Mm.
And carrying that energy around, of course, that isn't in alignment with the light, the rainbow light, the light of the sun that
Yeah.
we want to carry. So we can go deep into that. We can feel it. We can feel the pain that
Yeah.
it's causing us. It begins us to allow to heal those wounds so that actually we can shift the energy and then embody more rainbow light, embody
Yeah.
more sunshine, you know?
I love the expanded awareness you're describing, that the space, the shamanic space, or the space of the healers around you facilitated you to be able to look, you've looked within, you've looked for years, and then the safety and the space and the energy, because the energy was very intentional. The space had been opened with energetic intention of healing. Let's welcome all, we could call them parts, but really all energetic strands of the human souls within here, all of them. And then your awareness then was able to expand and go, and I'm holding this. I'm holding it. I have been holding it. Perhaps I didn't know I was holding it. It feels heavy and sticky and brown. And then the support was offered and invited then for you to do what you needed to do with this part of you to enable further healing and further connection with it. And that speaks again to
Yeah.
the space that we need in order to be able to connect. We're struggling out there on the outside with that stuff too. We know, we have a sense out there. I strongly believe we know our human collective knows we need connection in order to live longer lives, in order to live happily. There's a knowing out there. It's not everyone's reality. It's not a lot of members. It's not every member of our community's reality, because connection can be so tenuous. Connection can be so difficult in terms of finding safety and trust. But there is a knowing out there. Connection is part of that fuller life and that fullness to create all of who we are. For me, what I've really tapped into more recently is we also need space. Space in a moment to find self. Space. And so much of our space now, our lives are so heavily driven. And you notice the language people use. Couldn't catch myself today, lost myself in that. We're giving ourselves the clues all the time. Space to be, space to connect, and space to find it in connection. Space doesn't have to mean, this is my current area of learning. in relationship. Space doesn't have to mean being apart from. Space doesn't have to mean the only way I'm going to do it is if I take a weekend away to myself. That used to be the only way I could find space to be. Now I'm kind of thinking, how could I find space to be in connected relationship? Maybe even not have to leave the room and experience my fullness. Wow. Now that's huge and very, very new for me. But I think space is a very important part of that.
Oh, that is amazing. Amazing. And just as we're finishing up, I just wanted to just bring some of those threads together with regard to, I love this sense of, just for people, I suppose, perhaps they're listening to this and they're feel inspired to actually go on a journey with self. And perhaps they're questioning their sexuality, or perhaps they are aware of their sexuality and they don't know how to begin exploring the wounds within. And perhaps they're feeling the sticky brownness of shame and disgust and all of these things. Can we just pull the threads together to be able to offer some, I suppose, to signpost where you feel some of the initial steps should be on the journey, and what kind of what steps you'd recommend to even just reaching out and just taking the leap to be seen and to be held in this beautiful space with someone that can assist you on the journey and within community?
I think at the earliest stages, or indeed at any, but at the earliest stages, trust and a sense of a solid ground. Like for me, it's an individual nearly looking around going, all right, where can I go here? Something's there, but safety is big for me. Where can I go? And we do have organized, established bodies, LGBT NGOs, who have been, they're established. They have been working very, very hard. They've been working long years in Ireland, who understand our landscape and our terrain. Maybe begin there. Maybe begin there and go, okay, because this is built within our community, by our community. A lot, not all, but most individuals within the organizations will either identify or will have deep, deep understanding of queer life and queer energy. The organized bodies we're talking about for young people belong to. Fabulous organization to begin. Right, where can I go? Now, for Outhouse next door to us on Capel Street, an incredible resource for our community in the last number of years, where individuals can go and begin that journey of connection and begin to ask the questions. Tenny, in terms of an individual exploring the vast and the vibrant and the very, very rich that is our exploration of our gender and who we are in our felt sense of our gender in this world, in this life. Tenny as an organization. And there's others that those can point to as well. And begin to start asking questions. Remain, I would also say, and again, a connection with one's intuitive antenna for safety. That doesn't mean you don't need to disconnect from that. Remain discerning. What are you feeling here? Are you feeling safe? Keep asking the questions, listen to the answers, and listen out for yourself too. The other person doesn't know you. You know you. You know you. The other person can guide, inform. You know you. They're not gonna tell you you. You're telling you. They're there to listen. And begin the journey there of, right, who's trusted and established in our community and who has done the work and put the time in to really, really connect.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I tend to find as someone works in the healing space, we can bring people on a journey as far as we've been on ourselves, essentially. So, Anne-Marie, I just wanted to take a little moment out just to read a passage that really, really touched me when I read it as a gay man. And I've discussed it and read it out to some of my straight friends as well, who are also very deeply touched. And, you know, I think regardless of sexuality, I think it's just amazing to take a little bit of a deep dive into the words that are spoken within this passage I'm going to read out. It's The Queer Breath of the Universe by Dan van Kampenhout, which was published in Returning to the Earth Community in 2013. Take a moment to imagine growing up in a world where everybody and everything is queer. You have two mothers who are lesbians, a biological father who donated his sperm. He is gay. Your doctor is a transsexual. Your school teachers are lesbians. The members of the national football teams are lesbians and bisexual women. In this world, the few male football teams are not taken very seriously. Your hairdresser, ballet teacher, and stylist, of course, are gay. All of your friends in school are gay, lesbian, or transgender. All movies, all TV series, each book you read, each pop song, each advertisement for coffee or a new washing powder reflects the themes, issues, dynamics, seductions, and challenges of the queer world. Try and imagine this for a while, and then, while you're growing up in this world, where nobody would even consider you being something else other than queer, it gradually dawns on you that this is somehow not true for you. Mysteriously, you feel at home in your own male or female body. You are not transgender. And much more radical, you're attracted to the opposite sex, so you cannot be lesbian or gay. But how to get clear about such feelings when the culture does not offer you any functional role model? Maybe in some TV show or some future TV show, there is one straight person acting as a laughable sidekick, not to be taken serious in any way. That cannot offer you a real point of reference. Certainly, you are not like that person. Maybe you are not even aware of the words straight or heterosexual. Or if you did, they have no helpful meaning to you. How to see yourself, how to define yourself, how to value yourself when the culture seems to have no place or no words for that what you are. This is a challenge for any child or teenager. Consider for a moment that just one generation ago in the Western queer world, not even having a normal language to describe their own reality to themselves. The only words that were known to them were coming from the world of psychopathology, which described them as ill, or the words were insults, meant only to be used in a demeaning or shaming way. Each minority integrates ideas and opinions from the mainstream. Queers start out not even knowing they are part of a minority and have to face their own otherness on their own without support. For them, this dynamic of internalization of the mainstream's rejection of many or all things queer is particularly present. And I just wanted to read that out because it spoke so deeply to me. And hopefully it speaks deeply to you listening to this. And I just want to extend my warmest and biggest thanks. I wish I could reach through the screen and just give you a hug. You are such a gift, Anne-Marie, to the queer community and just to the world with your beautiful rainbow light. Keep shining as brightly as you do because, you are such a gorgeous soul. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tony. An absolute pleasure to sit and chat and connect. Thank you.